Welcome back to DesignShift, the crossroads of design and mindset. I'm your host, Blair Cho, and today I have a very special guest, Shanae Starr. They are a veterinary assistant by day and moonlight as a hypnotherapist and full spectrum life coach. So, welcome, Shanae. Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, Blair. So glad to be here.
I love that you're a vet assistant. I love animals, totally
Mhm.
obsessed. I have 5 cats myself. Do you have any pets?
Yes, I do have one cat.
Okay, cool. So a little cat family.
Yeah, yep.
That's cool. That's cool. And so hypnotherapy and full spectrum life coach. So first, what does a full spectrum life coach do? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I offer life coaching to folks in all stages of their life. From someone who, might just be adding to their family, so a birth, to end of life services, someone who might be saying goodbye. And so I offer services to everywhere in between, and all ages, all stages of life, and that's basically what I mean by full spectrum.
That sounds really challenging, especially not just dealing with hard situations, but to have to go from working with a mom of a newborn to someone who has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. They're so different that seems really like it would be challenging.
Oh, yes, there's definitely a lot of challenges in this line of work or service to others, but I find that I have such a great capacity to hold space for people and to basically just walk alongside someone that I don't take on a lot of those things, into my own self or into my own life. It's just sort of walking alongside someone and observing and offering my energy or advice in a moment where someone could be facing something really scary. Just holding that space. It's sort of like wrapping someone up in a nice bubble in a moment like that. And then I can leave that space and come away from it knowing that I did my best to support that person in that moment, whether it was something challenging or sad, or someone was elated with joy and it was the best moment of their life. And a lot of times, after a session with someone, sometimes I won't even remember what we talked about just because I'm so present in that moment. And I sort of am just plugged in and then I unplug and continue on with my life. So that is also something that I've talked to a lot of people who do talk therapy, psychologists and counselors, people having that strength and that ability to sit in that space with someone and when being able to step away from that space and continue on with their life. But it does come with challenges. There are some things that will carry over. I am not a robot and I do have emotions and my own feelings about things. And so, of course, I will sit and I will cry with someone sometimes. Um, yeah, it's a really interesting line of work.
I really like how you said that you walk beside them and that you do stay present with them because that really helps you connect and you're not just reading a script, you're not just telling everyone the same thing over and over again. You're able to adapt and accommodate their specific stage of
Hmm.
life and experience.
Absolutely. I always tell people that I will meet you exactly where you're at in life. I
That's
won't
awesome.
expect anything more. I just meet you right where you're at.
That's awesome. I love that. I know you're a hypnotherapist as well. How did you get into hypnotherapy? Where did you learn to do it? Does it really work?
Yeah, that's the good couple of questions. Then I think those are the real, key questions there. So my experience as a life coach started before I became a hypnotherapist. I was I was a life coach for a couple of years prior. I started in about 2018. I think that's right. Time is so funny now. I think I started in 2018. I owned a business. I co-owned a business and opened my own section of the shop offering tarot readings and energy healing
Oh,
and
wow.
started doing life coaching. And then 2020 hit, and we all know how that went with the pandemic and the
Right.
shutdowns and everything turned upside down for a lot of people. And I happened to find that I had some time on my hands outside of work. So I said yes to a program that I had researched a couple of years prior to that, and it was the Integrative Healing Arts Practitioner Program at Southwest Institute of Healing Arts in Arizona. So I went to school online for 2 years where I studied a number of modalities, including hypnotherapy. I just thought it sounded really interesting, and so I put in the hours. I put in 230 hours to
Oh
become
my
a
gosh.
certified hypnotherapist.
Wow. That sounds intense. 2 years and 230 hours.
Well, it wasn't just 2 years of hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
There were other classes, spiritual coaching and end of life coaching, and all of these different parts of it. But yeah, the hypnotherapy part, there were two classes, and sort of the beginner stuff, and then the advanced hypnotherapy, and even on to clinical hypnotherapy.
So, when would you use hypnotherapy typically?
That's a really good question. So I have used hypnotherapy with clients when they find that they want to make a real lasting change in their life. So one of the most common examples that I use is someone who wants to quit smoking. Sometimes just saying, I want to quit smoking and getting a patch isn't enough. And so we use hypnotherapy in that respect to change the the brain has elasticity, and there are neural pathways that are carved out over time with habit, with routine, with the way that we do things in our daily life. The neuroplasticity, it changes with those everyday actions essentially, and with the patterns that we start to recognize in life. So then when you do something like a habit like smoking, you are essentially needing to carve a new path, and we want to break out of that old path. And so then sometimes that requires just a little extra oomph, that other than I have the willpower to stop smoking. Uh, that willpower is amazing and can be the best foundation to start with quitting smoking. But then hypnotherapy can help kind of push things over that edge where we're then not just addressing your conscious mind and the habits that you're doing, like, oh, instead of lighting up a cigarette, take 5 minutes and walk around the block, or take a deep breath, or pop a piece of gum in your mouth. Those are little things that the conscious mind can be retrained to do. The subconscious mind is that deeper level where we reach beyond what we're doing just while we're awake. And we reach out to that subconscious mind through hypnotherapy or meditation. And with hypnotherapy, we make strong suggestions while in a hypnotic state. And so then it starts to really help with convincing the mind and basically recarving that pathway to really make a change.
How do you get into a hypnotic state, and what's happening in your mind and your body when you're in a hypnotic state?
Yeah, so when I say hypnotic state, there is another sort of, I guess, a more widely used term where it's altered state of consciousness. And we experience altered states of consciousness every day of our lives. You could be zoning out while watching the TV, or you're staring out the window in your office and you just kind of have a little daydream. Or maybe you're eating your lunch and you're just sort of imagining what you're going to do after work, and like your brain has checked out and you're already taking that hike instead of in the office. When we go to sleep and when we wake up, we're experiencing those minor altered states of consciousness. If you are a person who meditates, that is entering intentionally into an altered state of consciousness. It's more common than people think. So when I say hypnosis, people think, oh, you're going to swing a watch back and forth in front of my face. Or you hear stories about stage hypnotherapists who call people up onto the stage and make them cluck like a chicken.
Right.
It's so, those are like the most common affiliations with hypnosis. But really what we mean by hypnosis is, yes, entering into that hypnotic state. And it can typically be achieved by repetitive motion or rhythmic music, or some of the earliest examples of hypnosis were shamans in different cultures who would go out into the woods, and basically they would purify themselves by not consuming any alcohol or any sort of like food or liquid or anything. And they would sit out in the woods, and they would really center themselves and enter into a higher energetic state for themselves. And then they would do their shamanic practices, which typically consisted of like rhythmic drumming or movement. And they would get into sort of that hypnotic state in which they would then be able to heal people. And the examples go on from there.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, you hear and you see on TV about historically shamans or healers, medicine men going and having visions while they're in these hypnotic states, meditations, getting guidance for their people.
Hmm.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
And so imaging or imagery is really also a big part of hypnosis. Me as a hypnotherapist, I can provide imagery for the client. Or if you are doing self hypnosis, which is also very possible and something I've coached people in, doing self hypnosis, you then go on your own guided journey with imagery. Or if you're not a very visual or imagery driven kind of person, or that sort of thing just doesn't work for your subconscious mind, there is then the option of sound or energy, or there are other senses that we can engage in.
That is crazy. I didn't know that you could hypnotize yourself.
Uh huh. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Is that something that people commonly do, or is it more common to hypnotize someone else?
Oh, no, I think people are, if they're interested in hypnotherapy, I think are maybe more likely to do a quick search and find that there are videos on the internet where either videos or apps or self-help aids essentially, where I think it's super accessible and people are seeking out those things on their own even. And so I'm not saying that there's not a need for hypnotherapists or for people who have been trained in that, because there is a real value in that. But I think that it is really common for people to also just be seeking these things out on their own and going along with those videos or the aids that they find online in order to achieve that. And so there are also some people who just sort of know how to do that. I would imagine people who meditate on their own frequently would also be able to achieve that very easily for themselves, or if they wanted to enter into a hypnosis state, that they would be seeking that out for themselves instead of being guided.
Are there any specific resources that you would recommend to people that are interested in learning more about it or how to do it?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. Um, there's a really great app that I use actually, and it's called Breathe. And it's available with Android devices and Apple devices. And the Breathe app offers both meditations and hypnosis prompts.
Oh,
So I find a lot of value in that app. And there are a few hypnotherapists or hypnosis prompts that I follow on YouTube. You could just do a search on there. I'd love to actually, I should compile a list more specifically with more specific resources, but I also do have a book from my educational program that I went through, and it's a book called Hypnosis for Change. And I had just pulled it off the shelf because I knew we were going to be talking about it. And it's called Hypnosis for Change, and it's by Hadley and Stoddicker. And it's a really comprehensive snapshot of the history of hypnosis and basically what it is.
so do you ever hypnotize yourself, or does it work better for you to have a practitioner hypnotize you?
Yes, that's a really great question. So I have actually recorded myself. I've recorded a hypnosis script for myself and have listened to it. I was able to quit smoking, actually. I know it's like the most common example that's typically used when making habit changes, but I was able to successfully quit smoking, I think,
Yeah.
with the aid of doing that. And so it sounds kind of like a funny ego thing, but really it was just specifically having the prompt that I needed in order to do the thing, essentially. And I did also listen to other meditations and other hypnosis scripts at that time as well. So I think just the combination of everything was really what I needed.
I feel like you would be an excellent hypnotherapist because your voice is so calming and soothing.
Thank you. I have a little bit of a cold right now, so I might sound a little bit off than I usually do, but I have had people tell me that I do have a very warm voice and that my voice is really great for that sort of thing.
Right. I agree. I think so. I agree
Thank
for
you for the
sure.
compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, when you said that you quit smoking with hypnotherapy and you had to find the prompt that you needed, how can people figure out what specific prompts or hypnosis verbiage that would help them with their issue?
Yes, that's such a great question, Blair. So it depends on the approach that you want to take, and it depends on the results that you want to achieve. So let me ask you, is there something in your life that you would want to change? Either a habit or doing something more frequently or less frequently?
So, I did quit smoking
Uh-huh.
cigarettes. I went to vapes,
Hmm.
quit vapes, went to the nicotine like pouches
Uh-huh.
that you put in your lip, which yeah, yeah, not really like a cool thing to do, but I would love to just give nicotine up forever.
Yeah. Okay. Great. First of all, congratulations on making those steps towards that. That's
Thank
really
you.
amazing. So then to learn just that little bit of information about your process and your progress so far, I wouldn't sit there and create a script that says, I want to quit smoking 10 packs a day or
Right.
I would sit and I would be very specific about the prompt, and that's, you named that goal of you want to give up nicotine for good. So
Mhm.
instead of just, Blair wants to quit smoking, so at the sound of my voice, then Blair will convince herself, that she no longer wants to smoke. It would be very specifically like a trigger phrase or a key phrase that I would put into the script where it would say that Blair no longer craves, wants, or desires nicotine. In fact, Blair instead wants this, or I would replace it even with something positive. Or in hypnotherapy, we try to keep things positive, and this is something interesting that I've learned just for even for myself. And I don't know if you've ever looked at what the laws of attraction are, or like the,
Like manifestation.
yeah, essentially,
Yeah,
just to
I've
go
heard
like
it.
a little, yeah, like a little woo on you. It's like,
Oh, I love the woo. Bring it on.
yeah, so if you say, "Oh, I don't want this thing," chances are that thing's going to happen. That's the law of
Right.
attraction. Or if you say, "I really, 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 really want this thing," sometimes that's just not going to happen. And it's kind of funny that way with the laws of opposites and laws of attraction. But if you are speaking as if something already exists, that is a real key for manifestation that I've used in my life. So just behaving and using words around that thing that it's already happened. And so then I would say in the script, I would say Blair is nicotine free, no longer craves nicotine, instead loves the fresh air filling her lungs. Just gentle prompts like that, where throughout the entire script, and the key is to name it 3 times. You could either name it 3 times when you're in the deepest hypnotic state, or you can put it throughout the script, and you could do it more than 3 times. But the key for me has been naming that key or that trigger 3 times throughout the script. So saying it in one way or another Even with different verbiage, you could even change it. But then I find that the more specific you are and the more clear you are about the intention, the key, the trigger, the more it's going to set in.
So is it really as simple as, I mean, I don't know that I could do it, but coming up with like a well-informed, educated script and just recording it and listening to it?
I mean, potentially, yeah. So there are a few tests that you could do to discover how responsive you are to hypnotherapy. And there are a couple of different types of scripts that you could explore that would work best for you in order to best enter into that altered consciousness, essentially. So let's say a full body scan script doesn't quite work for you because you don't get into an altered or relaxed state if I'm saying, imagine the energy beaming from the top of your head all the way down to the tips of your toes. If that doesn't do it for you, then we could discover a more heavy imagery type of script where imagine you're walking out in the woods and in front of you you see a canopy of trees and the light is beaming through them. We just start to get really immersed and you find that you're more responsive to that. Or if you have more of an abstract brain and you absolutely cannot sit yourself in a forest and your brain just doesn't wanna, I could use other types of imagery and script to get you there. Imagine you're in a glass elevator and you see shapes. What types of shapes do you see? What types of feelings are popping up for you? And in this glass elevator, are you floating out in space or are you on an ocean floor? And it really kind of jumps around that abstract or very active brain for you to where it then allows your mind to rest and to give up control, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like for me personally, because I have done like guided meditations and I have heard some hypnosis recordings, but it typically is like what you said, where they're like, imagine the light flowing through you and it comes out your fingertips. And I swear, have you ever seen Beauty and the Beast, the cartoon?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know when the beast is transforming back to human and the light starts shooting out of his finger?
Yeah.
I swear every time they bring that up, that's where my mind goes.
Yeah.
Just cannot. I cannot. So, yeah, I definitely think that I would benefit from something more abstract, and I've never
Mhm.
heard that that was even a possibility.
Mhm.
So I find that very interesting.
Mhm. Yeah. There are different types of scripts for different kind of minds. And there are, you could just Google susceptibility test or hypnosis test to see A, what type of hypnosis you would be most responsive to, and what your susceptibility to it is.
If you come across any really good ones or think of them, any real credible ones, send them to me and I'll link them down below. That would be
Oh,
wonderful.
yeah, absolutely. I do have at least a few scripts that I saved from when I was in school, a few resources for that. So I do remember saving a few scripts, so I'll try to dig those up.
Yeah, perfect. That would be awesome. I think for people to, I know I would be curious to take some sort of online quiz to say, what would I respond best to? How could I get the most out of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So when you do hypnotherapy on people, you could do it virtually. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So when you work with clients, do you see any clients in person? Do you do it all remotely? How does it work for you specifically?
Yeah, I've done a majority has been remotely online, but I have had a few clients that we did visits in person.
Do you have like a shop and or like a building and everything?
So previously, I had a space where I had an office essentially in my home. And so I was able to invite them if, I knew them well enough just for safety. I had them come to my home. So,
What are your future plans for your business? Do you want to continue doing how you're doing now, or do you want to expand, shrink down? Like, what are your goals with your business?
oh, that's a great question. I feel like with this business, it's been sort of the ebb and flow of things, just where life is taking me. Sometimes I was more focused on it. Sometimes it took a back burner, just to life, to school. I also just more recently in the past few years became a mother for the first time. So
Oh,
I'm
congratulations.
yeah, I'm solo parenting on my own. I'm working
Oh,
full time. I'm in school again full time. So things are a bit busy for me, but I will always make time for a client virtually. And so, like, I had just done a tarot and coaching session for a friend just this last week. So I always find time for someone. If they want to have a session, I can do it remotely. Most of the time, I have time.
so when people reach out to you, because I'm going to put your contact information down below, should they reach out because of a specific problem or they're curious, or what are some sorts of things they could reach out to you for?
Well, I would say all of the above. If they're just curious and they want to chat with me about what I do or what services I offer, I do offer a free consultation initially. If they have a specific thing they want to come to me to and they're already just like, I know what I want to address and this is it, I can work with that. As I mentioned before, I meet people where they're at. And if they don't know what they need, then there is a process that I'm able to go through with them to sort of get to the root of it. So even if they feel like they just overall, maybe their life feels too chaotic and they're not sure what to do, then we can start to really explore and kind of pin down, okay, with the different types of tools that I've learned and also with my experience, I've been able to walk someone through like, okay, is this the thing that's really getting to you the most? Or let's focus on this thing and changing this thing. And then that might turn around the other things and sort of create a domino effect for you to make those positive changes and really get that inertia going to make changes that you need in your life.
Right. And I think sometimes it's important to have that external viewpoint, and like neutral party to kind of help you see, maybe I'm thinking that I should start with this one thing that's bothering me, but you see the root cause as something else.
Hmm.
And once, like you said, you treat that root cause, ultimately it resolves the other issues as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I will just kind of throw in that like I've worked with a number of folks who have like a neurodivergence, like ADHD,
Mhm.
where they're just, scrambling. Like, I forget this and I forget that, or I need to do this or that, and I don't know how. I'm just so overwhelmed. And it's come down to, okay, well, let's first fix your refrigerator. Let's hack your refrigerator so that you don't forget about the vegetables rotting in your drawer. you know, let's put those vegetables in the door and put your condiments in the drawer. So you know where the condiments are. And when you open your fridge, you're going to see those fresh veggies and you're going to feel better already because you're eating better. Or, just a small example, making those little changes can sometimes also amount to a big thing. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm very ADHD, and so is my husband. So
Mhm.
we're all over the place 100% of the time. I always have like 500 projects going on, and my
Mm.
my mind like never stops. It's nuts.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to speak to that and to touch on basically our home environment and like the importance of having organization, because I also did personal organizing for people.
Oh, no, cool.
So, like, as a part of like coaching services, like, I've helped someone totally and completely redo their bedroom because their clothes were spilling out onto the closet, onto the bed, and like everything's just in chaos. And so then coming in and sort of offering that. I like the Marie Kondo for sorting, the Marie Kondo method. Does this bring you joy? No,
Yes.
then let's get rid of it. I help them Marie Kondo their their closet essentially. And and even just making small environmental changes like that, like I've helped people do, can make such a huge difference in functioning just from day to day, knowing where your keys are going to be at the end of the day every day so that you know where they are in the morning when you get up to go to work. So you're not scrambling around the house trying to figure out where you last left them can make the smallest difference.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that really leads into what I do with, I always say your external greatly, greatly impacts your internal. So,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, if everything is in chaos around you, then your internal is going to be chaotic and stressed and anxious. It's important to make your external environment and your surroundings help provide you with the feelings that you want to feel. So, if you want to go to bed feeling calm and relaxed, then you need to make your bedroom a calm and relaxed space. Yeah, I truly believe that it makes a huge difference. And I like that you hit on that and just from a different perspective, reemphasizing that that is the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I feel the mood of a room when I walk into a room or into a space. And it's alive with the energy and the moods of people or the people that were previously in it. So I'm really sensitive to energy. Like in my previous work, we used to go to estate sales all the time to get product to bring into our store. And so I would go into many people's homes and to go to garage sales and things like that. And I could just walk into a room and I could feel the energy of a room. And I've had quite a few experiences that were kind of interesting, but I'll maybe save those for another time. But like also the chaos of having a garage sale or like having an estate sale where everything is just upheaval, it adds to the frenetic energy of things.
Yeah, one night several weeks ago, maybe like a month or so ago now, one of my friends came over to our house for the first time. And we sat around, we drank tea, we did some vision boarding, like we did all kinds of stuff. It was super fun, super chill. And when she left, I was like, I'm so glad that you could come. And she was like, I really like the vibe of your home. Like I thought she'd be like, "Oh, I like, your dining room table or your curtains," but she was like, "I really like the vibe and the feeling of your home." And that
Mm-hmm.
to me was such a huge compliment because that just means more. Like I could pick out any curtains all day long, but if it's not like a peaceful, comforting space, then people can feel that.
Yes, absolutely. I've also had similar comments on the vibe of my home. People visiting, they're just like, "Oh, I love being here," or "I love the vibe," or "Your style is cool." But that also translates to things are aesthetic, and I am pleased by this aesthetic, and it puts me at ease when I'm in your home. So those are definitely huge compliments.
Right, for sure, for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I've really appreciated it. I found a lot of helpful information, and I know that listeners have as well. So, again, I will link your contact information down below in the show notes. And if you come up with any additional links, resources, I'd be glad to link those as well. So, thank you so much. Do you have any last pearls of wisdom for listeners?
Oh, last pearls of wisdom. Um,
I know it's a tough one.
yeah, no, that's really great. Honestly, our minds are so strong. Our minds are incredible. And so hacking into the power of the mind and of the subconscious mind could be life-changing.
That's so awesome. I love that. That's perfect. Perfect way to wrap up. All right. Well, thank you so much, Shanae, and thank you guys for listening. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.